على أن يرهنه أن يرهنه المشتري بالثمن شيئا بعينه and the one who sells a slave upon against the one who gives collateral to the seller with the price of something by itself from the
Okay, so come on, start. Rahman Rahim. Okay, so continue from last week's masala that we mentioned. So if a person, for example, like if Imtiaz has purchased laptop of Shakil and he's left with Shakil a cow. The cow has now given birth to a calf and the cow has died. Yeah, without him transgressing against the cow or harming it anyway, naturally just died. So what happens now is that you look at the value of the calf. So the value of the calf, you have to compare it with the value of the cow. You take them both together. You compare it with the value of how much liability there is, and then you deduce it. So for example, like this. Let's say the cow, for instance, let's say the laptop, he buys a laptop for £500. The cow's worth, let's say, 500. The calf is worth, for example, let's say it's worth 500 as well. So now what we do is, because the calf is equal to the same value as the cow, we say that the whole of the Rahn, the cow and the calf put together, is equal to the value of the laptop. So therefore, when the cow died, half of the value of the liability has now become cleared. Does that make sense?
This is when the laptop, did you say it was £1,000?
£500.
All of the liabilities.
If it's 500, if it's 1,000, you can use 1,000, but you're just gonna have to change.
So if it's 500, the laptop 500,
yeah.
The calf and the cow each are 500 each, so that adds up to 1,000.
Yeah. So remember, if the calf dies, technically he's not liable for the calf because the calf wasn't initially part of the Rahn. It was something that was produced, came into existence after the deal was done. So if the Rumi said if the calf dies on its own, he's not liable for anything, or he's not liable for anything. Yeah, and nothing will be deduced. Rather, if the asl dies, which is the cow dies, then what happens? And the calf is still there. Then what we do now is we look at the value of the calf, compare it with the original value of the cow, and then we superimpose that onto the value of the liability, the laptop, and whatever percentage the cow falls into it, we deduce that from. So, like I said, if the cow was worth 500 and the calf coincidentally is also 500, that means both cow and calf put together is equal to what the liability of the laptop is. You know, obviously 5 plus 500 equals 1,000, isn't it?
Oh, so we don't look at
we don't look at that. So we do it within the value of the cow. So we say that half of what was destroyed was basically half the value of the laptop.
So if the cow was worth 1,000 and the calf was worth 500, then we'd say that's only 50%.
2/3 of the.
Yeah. Okay, so
2/3 of the liability is gone. 1/3 is left. Yeah, and if, for example, like the calf was worth 1,000 and the cow is worth 500, then how would it be?
The calf was worth 1,000, so 1/3.
Yes, they want 1/3. 1/3 would have gone. So he's got 2/3 to pay back.
In that example, how much was he buying the laptop for?
500. Remember, the calf itself, he is not liable for the calf. But because the asl, when the mother was there, the calf had no value. Once the mother has gone, now the calf has taken, it's like become naib file. It's taken position substitution of the asl. So now that comes in place of a liability now. Have you got that? Yeah. So look. So he says, where is it? All right. فَإِنْ هَلَكَ النَّمَا, if the nama was to be destroyed, هَلَكَ بِغَيْرِ شَيْءٍ, we know that it's going to go for free, yeah, without anything. هَلَكَ بِغَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. Why was that? Simply because whilst the mother, the asl, the original primary security collateral is there, anything which is a byproduct of the rahan, it has no value. Yeah, the liability wise, it's got no value. وَإِنْ هَلَكَ الْأَصْلِ, but if the asl was to become destroyed, now what happens is there still has to be something there as a liability. So that liability now is transferred onto the new produce. وَبَقِيَ النَّمَا, and the nama remains. افتكه الراهن, the rahin meaning imtiyaz, he will now separate the nama bihissatihi according to its relative value. Yeah, so that's how you worked out the relative value percentage wise. وَيُقَسَّمَ الدَّيْنِ, and then the debt, that 500, the liability, it will be divided على قيمة الرهن, on the value of the rahan, يوم القبض, meaning the cow, on the day he took possession. So let's say he took possession on Monday, so the value of the cow on Monday. وعلى قيمة النماء, and the value of the produce يوم الفكاك. Fikak means when they're both separated. So on the day separate, let's say for example today, on Tuesday, the cow died on Tuesday. That means on Tuesday, now we're going to separate the value of the produce from the asl. فما أصاب الأصل, so whatever amount is is counter or is equal to the asl, سقط من الدين, will fall from the debt بقدره, according to its amount. وما أصاب النما, and whatever amount of liability is equal to the nama, افتكه الراهن, the rahin now can take back, he can separate it from it. So in simple terms, I told you, Imtiaz owes 500 to Shakil. Imtiaz on Monday gave him a cow, which was equal to 500. Now, that cow on Monday evening gave birth to a calf. So now what's happened is, if that calf was to die, he won't be liable to anything because the calf wasn't part of the rahan. But if the cow was to die, then what happens is now the liability is transferred onto the calf. But because there's two things there, we can't deduct the entire, we can't clear the entire debt. So we have to now transfer the value of the calf in respect to the value of the cow, and whatever amount, whatever percentage falls on the cow, that's how much is going to be deduced from the liability, and whatever remains is going to remain, as liability is going to give back.
When I was saying that if the cow dies naturally, he's not responsible for it at all.
If the calf dies.
So if the calf dies.
If the cow dies, then it falls from liability.
I think because the example you gave, you made the calf the same value. Last week you gave it a different value. So really the calf is not going to be the same value as the cow.
Okay, let's make it a different value then. If the cow is worth 500 and let's say the calf is worth 250. 250, yeah? It's half the price basically. So what happens now is, how much of if you had to divide it over like fractions, how much of the calf is the cow equal to? 1/3. 1/3, isn't it? 1/3.
500 half, 250 is half.
Yeah, so 250 for the calf.
Yeah.
And then the cow is double the price of the calf.
As a whole.
What
fraction has gone?
It's a third.
So it's 1/3. So therefore now, because the cow's gone, technically the whole liability should go. He should have cleared his whole debt by the calf dying, because the calf was originally equal to the value of the debt. But because there's a calf now involved, now that means that some of that is going to be transferred onto the calf. How much is going to be transferred onto it? Its value according to its percentage.
So in this one, he'll only pay 250 if he wants to read. If he keeps the calf, let's say
Yeah.
if he keeps the calf, then really only have to give him 250. If he obviously gives the calf back, then you have to give him the full 500.
So basically, what's going to happen is 2/3 of the value of the laptop is going to go. So what's 2/3 of the value of 500? 500 divided by 3 times 2. Hey, you want me to teach you fractions?
165.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's about that much, isn't it? So that's how much left he's got to give to him. He's got to give to him. Once he gives that to him, he gets back the car and end the story. Does that make sense? Let's say, for example, the laptop is worth 500, and the cow itself was worth 500, and the calf was only worth 100 pounds. So now, how much does 100 go into 500? 5 times in it. So that means that imagine there's a cake and you divide it into 6 parts. So the cow dying means 5 parts of 6 has now been destroyed, has cleared the debt. 5/6 of the debt has been cleared. 1/6 is left for him to pay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or you want me to explain it differently?
You see, what I don't understand here is the fact that the cow died naturally. What fault is it of the shopkeeper? That the cow has died, it's not his fault.
No, because
And yet he's losing some of the money.
remember we said last week, look, if the cow was to die, he is responsible for it.
Not naturally, you said. If he's
Even if it's naturally.
naturally.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Even naturally. Yeah. Because remember, this was the whole liability issue. Once that cow dies in his possession, that means now it's all over. Okay. Everyone got up there? This is probably the only more difficult masala in this chapter. Yeah, the other ones are not that difficult. This is the only one that you need to know a bit of how things work out. Okay. Right, next. Let's say, for example, Imtiaz, he does a transaction with Shakil, and in this transaction, he buys a laptop, and he's supposed to pay him 500. He hasn't, so he's going to give him a cow to keep. Okay, cow's going to stay alive, inshallah. It won't die this time. Now, what happens is, Shakil is saying to Imtiaz, you know what? I don't trust you. I want something extra. In other words, increase the security. Yeah, give me your mobile phone as well. Yeah, so increase it. So technically, what basically Shakil is asking for is an appended security. He wants an additional security, something added on top of that. Is that allowed or not? So yes. وَيَجُوزُ زِيَادَ فِي الرَّهْنِ. Yeah. In the rahan, you're allowed to add extra. Why? Because the whole point of it is Shakil wants to be satisfied that Imtiaz is going to pay him. Yeah. So the more security he gets, the more content he feels that he's going to get something back.
But presumably, once you agree that it's just a cow, you can't a week later say, "Oh, by the way, I want something else now as
No,
well."
you can't do that. You can't. Let's say, for example, you found out later on that this guy's a risky guy. Some people have told you that this guy's a risky. When it comes to paying his debts and stuff, he doesn't do it. So you want to put more pressure on him. So legally, you can do that.
Doesn't that just allow you to keep putting illegitimate pressure and every week?
No, because you're going to get it back. You're going to get your item back. Ultimately, you're going to get it back. It's not as though you're taking away something forever. Okay. Can you do it the other way around? Like, for example, let's say, can Imtiaz say, "Oh, or you've already got my cow, haven't you? So can I buy something else of you and make that one rahan a security for 2 things?" Does that make sense? So here there's an ikhtilaf between Imam Abu Hanifa, Muhammad on one side, Imam Abu Yusuf rahimahullah on the other side. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Muhammad said, no, you can't. لا يجوز زيادة في الدين عند أبي حنيفة Muhammad. In other words, if you've made an agreement where one debt is going to be equal to a particular security, you can't go and you can't now start doing extra debts. You can't incur extra debts and use that one security for all of them. وَلَا يَسِيرُ الرَّحَنْ رَحْنًا بِهِمَا. And that one rahan will not become a rahan for multiple debts. According to Imam Yusuf rahimahullah, on the other hand, he says no, it's permissible. Yeah, multiple deaths is permissible. وقال أبو يوسف رحمه الله هو جائز. Okay, next. Now, can you have one death? Can you have, one rahan, which is for two people? Yeah, so for example, like, let's say Imtiaz, he buys a laptop of Shakil, £500. He also buys from Arib, he buys a mobile phone for £100. Or let's say £500, saying 500 to him, 500 to him. And he says to both of them, look, here's my car. Both of you take my car security. Does that make sense? So one security, yeah, there's two murtahins, one rahin. Is that allowed? وَإِذَا رَحَنَ عَيْنًا وَاحِدَةً. When the rahin, he keeps or he hands over one rahan with two men, bidainin, with a debt, that's for لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا. That's for both of them. 500 for him, yours, 500 to him, yours. Jaza.
So how did you translate that?
Rahana.
Rahana, Aynan.
Aynan.
Yeah, how do you translate that?
And
So
one
when
object.
So when the Rahin has one object,
He
Aynan is a
he makes security one object.
Or is that means security?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rahana. Remember that? Now, how will this work then? So this will work as though, look, this will work as though the murtahin is one person. So jami'uha rahnun in the kulli wahid minhuma. The whole rahan will be a rahan with both of them, as though each one of them is the murtahin. So what's going to happen? The rahan is now going to be considered to be 500 and 500. Yeah. So although the car is worth whatever it's worth, the rahan will be 500, 500. وَجَمِيعُهَا رَحْنٌ, and the whole thing will be rahan in the kulli wahid minhuma, with both of them. وَالْمَذْمُونَ, what's the liability? Is that which is ala kulli wahid minhuma, hissat daynihi minha. The amount of debt each one is owed. You got that? So in other words, how much does Imtiaz owe Arib? 500. How much owe him? 500. Okay. فَإِنْ قَضَى, so now, when Arib pays his 500, can he get his car back? No, he can't. Right? Because remember, we assume both of them to be one person. So, فَإِنْ قَضَى أَحَدُهُمَا, if one of them pays off their liability, or if he pays off one of them their liability, كَانَ كُلُّهَا رَحْنًا فِي يَدِ الْآخَرِ. All of it will be rahan now in the hands of the other person. Before, both of them shared the rahan, now only. حَتَّى يَسْتَوْفِيَ دَيْنَهُ, until the other person fully receives his debt. Look at that.
This, I'm presuming, obviously, with both of them knowing that they're going into this as a partnership. And it obviously can't be done like
No.
he says it to him inside and then without telling him that he's
It
not.
could be done later. For example, let's say he buys him a laptop of him, and he buys something of him as well. And then later on, he says, you know what, is it okay, you two, if I can make my car rahan with you two? That's fine.
I mean, without letting them both know that there's another person involved, he can't do it that way.
So he's saying he goes to you separately and says, here's my car.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And then he goes to me separately.
No,
That me knowing that.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. Okay, next. Okay, this is something that you guys asked before. Let's say, for example, Imtiaz, he goes to buy the laptop. So he buys the laptop, and what happens is, Shakil says to Imtiaz, I will sell you my laptop on the condition that you leave with me a rahan. Yeah, in this masala I mentioned slave, but we can use anything. You leave with me your phone. Leave your phone with me. And Imtiaz says, no, I'm not going to do that. Will the transaction go through or not? So legally, he doesn't have the power to force him to impose on him a rahan. It both has to be done mutually. Remember we said in the beginning, it has to be done with offer and acceptance. However, Shakil will have the choice of revoking the contract. Yeah, unilaterally. Does that make sense? So, ومن باع عبدا على أن يرهنه المشتري بالثمن شيئا بعينه. Whoever sells, meaning imtiyaz sells abd here, let's say, Shakil. Shakil sells a laptop ala an yarhanahu on the condition that the mushtari imtiyaz gives to him a rahan in exchange for the money, something specific. فامتنع المشتري, the mushtari imtiyaz refuses min taslim al-rahan to hand over the item. لم يجبر عليه. Imtiyaz will not be coerced into handing it over. وكان البائع بالخيار. And Shakil, the seller, will have a choice. إن شاء رضي بترك الرهن. If he wishes, he carries on the transaction and leaves the rahan out. وإن شاء فسخ البيع. And if he wishes, he can revoke the contract. And remember we said here, it can be done unilaterally. It doesn't need, normally you need mutual agreement to revoke contract. But here, because it's not gone fully through, because the condition was a rahan, because it hasn't gone fully through, therefore he can pull out.
Are we treating these as two separate contracts?
No.
It's one contract of sale, and the security rahan is a shart of that contract.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do a shart there. Yeah, so
it's not revoking the contract. Then I say, look, I want security. Imtiyaz says, I'm not giving security. I simply say, well, I'm not selling to you.
So technically, you've kind of gone through with the contract.
Right.
Does that make sense?
But that's what I'm saying. If it's a shart, then the shart isn't completed.
Yeah.
Then I
so it hasn't become binding yet.
Yeah, it hasn't become binding.
It hasn't become binding, no.
Right.
But technically, it's still like revoking contract, considered to be revoking. So, وإن شاء فسخ البيع, and if Shakil wants, he can nullify the contract. إلا أن يدفع المشتري الثمن حالا. Unless, see, this is where it is still it is a contract. Because if Imtiyaz immediately hands over the money and goes, okay, you know what, I've got the money. Hands it over, pays for it on the spot. The contract goes through.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. أو يدفع قيمة الرهن. Or Imtiyaz can actually do this as well. He can give the value of the rahan which Shakil wanted. The phone. This is the phone's worth £400. You can just give him £400 and keep the £400 with you. Does that make sense? Yeah. فَيَكُونْ رَهْنًا. Then that money will be considered to be a rahan. Obviously, if the item was worth £400, then £400 would have covered the cost of it. Yeah. But let's say, for example, he gave it in a different currency, or maybe he even gave it and the value of it was very, very less than the value of the item. Okay, or the money didn't belong to him, he borrowed it from someone else. Okay, next. Remember we mentioned this before. The rules regarding rahan. What are the responsibilities that Shakil has with regards to the rahan? And what are the responsibilities that Imtiyaz has? So the murtahin Shakil, his responsibilities are أن يحفظ الرهن بنفسه وزوجته وولده. That he has to protect, safeguard, preserve the rahan. Yeah, he can do it himself. He can even get his wife to do it, and he can even get his children to do it. So in other words, your family, legally, your family can take care of an item just like you can take care of it. So it won't be transgressing against the item. Yeah, but you can't get your neighbor, you can't get your friend. So for example, let's say he's got the phone, he's going on holiday, and he goes and leaves it with the neighbor. Can't do that. Okay. You can also leave it with وَخَادِمِهِ الَّذِي فِي إِيَالِهِ. That servant he has at home, who is part of his family, as in, is always at home. Not a servant which is like leased out to someone else. Okay. وَإِنْ حَفِظَهُ. And what if Shakil was to keep the mobile phone with someone outside of these? بِغَيْرِ مَنْ هُوَ فِي إِيَالِهِ. Outside of someone who is his family. أو أودعه. Or he was to keep it, deposit it as a trust somewhere. Then domina. If something happens to it, now he is responsible for that. Okay. Next.
Shakil is responsible.
Yeah.
So before we go on, the scenario where we just discussed about two people. If Imtiyaz was to leave a cow
then would the same sort of stuff apply as we discussed
Yeah,
previously? So
everything.
it's a carriage, but it'd be just a bit more complicated. So it'd be
That's
between
it,
the two.
yeah. Okay, وإذا تعدى المرتهن في رهن. Next, look, you know this is something you have to understand. You know this rahan, right? Remember we said if something happens to it, it's automatically going to be deducted from the price, yeah? Okay. You see liability, there's different types of liabilities legally. One type of liability is a liability of a trust. Yeah, so the liability of a trust is basically if something happens to it, he has to pay the market value of the item. Then you have something which is known as a liability of usurping something. Yeah. So you have different types of liabilities out there. So in Rahan, remember we said in the beginning that in the beginning of the chapter he said
After the value
okay. It says وهو مضمون بالأقل من قيمته ومن الدين. That it is liable, but you take the lesser of the two, whichever of the two items, the liability or the rahan, whichever one is less, that's what you use as a liability. That's what cancels from the liability. Yeah. So in other words, it's the way we treat the liability is different. If, however, imtiyaz was to transgress against the rahan, then we don't treat it anymore like rahan. We treat it like as though he usurped it. So legally, the judge will say to him, right, what did you do to it? And if they find evidence of him tampering with it or doing something wrong with it, then he'll have to pay if he gets damaged. You know, the liability of ghasab. So إذا تعدى المرتهن, if Shakil the murtahin, he transgresses في الرهن, ضمنه, he's liable to it. How much ضمان الغصب بجميع قيمة, whatever its value is in the markets, whatever its value is, he's got to pay that. So no longer do we look at the less of the two. Everyone understand that? Yeah? Okay. So this is why the question that you asked about the transgressing. Next, we've only got a few left. Let's go back. Okay, so next. Imtiaz has given the phone to Shakil, the Rahan. Imtiaz now has come, right, and he's going to give the payment. If Imtiaz gives the money, what's going to happen? He's going to get that. Okay, so إذا أعاد المرتهن الرهن للراهن, when the murtahin. Have you got Aara simply means to borrow in that case then. Yeah, I've got Aada, it means to give back. Aara would simply mean, let's say Imtiaz said, oh, is it okay if I borrow the phone? I just need to check something in there. Yeah, and Shakil goes, here, use it. Yeah, and Aada simply means, so they both can, you know, in the end, they both imply the same thing. So, إذا أعاد المرتهن, when the murtahin, Shakil, he hands over the rahan back to the rahin, فقبضه, and he holds it with his hands, خرج من ضمان المرتهن, liability now drops from Shakil. He's no longer responsible for it. In other words, if it falls out of Imtiaz's hands there and then and becomes damaged, Shakil doesn't have to pay anything, and Imtiaz still owes the debt. فإن هلك في يد الراهن, so if it gets damaged in the hands of the rahin, هلك بغير شيء. Yeah, it's got destroyed in the true owner's possession, so therefore no one's liable. وَلِلْمُرْتَهِنْ, and the murtahin has the right أن يسترجعه إلى يده. In other words, if he's given it to him and Imtiaz has still not paid the debt off, legally, Shakil has the right to get the phone back. So in that one that Ari was mentioning, the Aara. So let's say Imtiaz came to Shakil and said, you know what, I just need to check some contacts numbers in my phone. Can I check it? It was okay. So he took it and he's checking it, and then he starts walking off. So legally, he can tell the authorities will get him to give the phone back to him because it's still a security. But it's gone out of his hands possession. So وَلِلْ murtahin, and the murtahin, Shakil has the right أن يسترجعه, to have it returned back to him إلى يده, to his hands. فإذا أخذه, so when Shakil takes the phone back now, remember Shakil, Imtiaz took it, checked the number, and Shakil came along and he took the phone back again. أعاد الضمان عليه. The daman of Rahn comes back now. Liability of Rahn returns back to Shakil. So now, if something was to happen to it, now it's going to be cleared from the debt. Okay, everyone got that? Okay, next.
What happens if somebody else says, "Can I borrow it to check my contacts?" Takes it, and then it gets destroyed in his hands. Can I seek a replacement security?
Yes,
then?
you can get a replacement. Yeah, so if that does happen, you can seek a replacement. Okay. Next. What if the Rahin dies? Yeah, Imtiaz dies, for example. Then what? Now, does that mean the contract, which original contract between them, is over, and the Rahan therefore should be returned? How does it work? Or does it transfer over to the family members, or the wasi, the plenipotentiary? Does it go to them? وَإِذَا مَاتَ الرَّاحِن, when the Rahin, meaning Imtiaz, he dies, بَاءَ وَسِيَهُ, the wasi, yeah, the guardian, the plenipotentiary, he now Ba'a Rahan, he now becomes responsible for the Rahan. The court will make him responsible. Whoever it is, whether it's his family member or even the court, depute someone to deal with this. So, let's say, for example, the court says to Ikram, go to Shakil, tell him, give him this paper, show him that it's from the courts, and he has to, I'm going to sell the Rahan, and you'll pay off the debt. Make sense? وَقَضَى الدَّيْنِ, and this wasi, he will pay off the debt. So Shakil still doesn't have the right to sell off the Rahan on his own. Doesn't have the right. Yeah, all still has to be done through the courts. فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَسِي, if he doesn't have a wasi, a guardian, yeah, or the new word I learned, potentially, yeah. نَصَبَ الْقَاضِي لَهُ وَسِيًّا, the qadi, so if he doesn't have a personal wasi, like a family member who is able to, who is of a sound mind that can do this, then the judge will appoint a person on his behalf. وَأَمَرَهُ بَيْئِهِ, and he'll command him to sell it off. Alhamdulillah. Rahan is done. So, the reason why students find this difficult is simply because we don't really, on a day-to-day basis, come to deal with these kind of masail. Because we deal with salat, so that's why salat makes sense to us, and fasting and these things. But when it comes to transactions, these kind of masail don't really apply to many of us. There might be some people who it applies to, or maybe we don't know it in these names. We just know the substance. Yeah, sometimes like you do something your whole life and you never knew there was a term for it. Yeah, and then you learn about that term. So when you study fiqh, a lot of these things have terms for them. So the next chapter is Hajar. Yeah, we won't start that yet because Ramadan and it's. After Ramadan, inshallah, we've got 2 lessons left, so I'm going to try and do Hajar. Probably just finish Hajar in those 2 lessons. Most likely. And the next year, we can do the rest. If I teach you or whoever teaches you, most likely you'll start Hidayah as well next year.
So they start the movie chair is 2 lessons in 2 weeks, and then revision week or.
Yeah, so when you return back from the holidays, you can have 2 weeks class, and then you have 1 revision week, and then exams. Inshallah. Or should we start Hajar? What do you think?
Start revision. I would like to be honest. I would do.
Prepared, yeah.
So could you just go through this once again? I just want to try and grasp it if I can. Where the cow is worth say 400 and now the calf is worth 200.
Yeah.
Now together they add up to 600.
Yeah.
Now the cow has died.
Yeah.
So together they're worth 600. What is the liability of Shakil to the Muhtasmin?
Okay.
So he's got cow is 400.
Yeah.
And the calf is 200.
200,
Just
yeah.
want to work out what percent, how you work out.
Okay, so the way you work it out is basically you're gonna take the calf, you're gonna take the cow.
So both of them end up to
Yeah.
add up to 600, yeah?
Let's take the calf, take the cow, and you're gonna take that and you're gonna make it into a fraction. How much of the calf is
So
in
now,
relation to the
of the 600, now we'll make it a little bit easier. It's a third of the 600.
Yeah.
So he's only going to do, his responsibility is a third.
so,
Say if it was 500,
We'll call it 600, or call it 900.
yeah, call it 600, yeah, 600.
Yeah.
so if he borrowed, all he's going to do is pay the 200, not the 400 that is.
No, he doesn't have to pay anything. It gets deducted from the liability.
So both of them.
Is the exam same as December? So this